How's it going, everybody? I am the Uncanny Omar. You are watching Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And with me today, I've got two of the masterminds behind this big crossover that is happening at Dynamite. And we got Declan Shalvey and Ed Brisson back today. Thank you all so much for joining me to talk about my favorite 80s cartoons, of course. This is what I just love talking about. And it kicked off, I believe, last week with the road to. There's always a road heading somewhere. Are we going to war? Is that what's happening, guys?
Well, there's an X in the title, so it's got to be something's got to be happening.
I just thought it was like matchmaking. Like people were gonna go on dates. Everything's gonna be fine.
We had a conversation about whether it should be versus or X, and I don't know if either of us really knew which to do.
I thought it was versus for the longest time. I thought that's what the X stood for, and then it instead becomes Thundercats loves Silverhawks instead, I guess.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about because I've had you both of you on separately. I haven't had you both on at the same time to talk about how all this madness started and how Thundercats led into other franchises. And now we've got Silverhawks and now we got Thundercats versus Silverhawks. So is this a storyline that is going to go throughout the ongoing series for both series, for Silverhawks and Thundercats?
Well, no, because it's kind of replacing them. So Thundercats issue 25 came out a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And that wraps the main series. So now, instead of Thundercats in a Silverhawks book, it is Thundercats for ex-Silverhawks, Mumm-Ra, and Thunderhawks. So there's 3 mini-series running over the summer instead of the main book. So, there's no crossover books with the titles. The titles themselves become the crossover, if that makes sense.
Okay. Now, what makes this so different than what you both have been doing in each of your titles?
Well, they're fighting each other. That's number one.
Okay.
no, I'm just messing. Well, I don't know, Ed, if you want to.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I've been doing in Lost or whatever, and in the Silverhawks, it sort of has been building to this. A little bit. We've been seeding things. A lot of the things that precipitate this crossover date back to even like Suli's Chitara series with some of Chitara's powers of premonition. But what makes it different? Like honestly, I think this is the first time ever that we've really seen Thundercats and Silverhawks together. I think even in the cartoon, it never happened. In the 2011, there was a very brief Monstar on screen sort of bit. So that's like the big, that's the big get here, the big exciting bit. But the difference is really that's like I think it's just kind of like just balls out action. Like it's a lot more like action. I think a lot of both the books did a lot of sort of character work over the last however many issues. 25 for you, 10 in Lost, 10 in Silverhawks. And this is kind of like it's helped really kind of put a spotlight on what's on the line for everybody throughout the series.
Yeah, look, when I started working on Thundercats, like again, it was only really supposed to be a limited series, like 12 issues, and it did so well, it became an ongoing. So for the first year was very much for me, I just kind of want to tell this basic story that sets up the Thundercats in the comics world and what it can be, blah, 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 blah. But the success of what came with it, and all of a sudden, like I think my original plan was to have the series end with the Thundercats Lost crew basically appearing. But then once we knew we had so much more tapestry, then all of a sudden it's like, well, what if they had their own book? And, there was one shot. So weirdly, the first year I think did a good job of establishing things. And the second year did a great job of really opening out the world, like Ed's Lost book with Rafa and the one shots and Sue's and Domenico's Chitara like miniseries. It just kind of, there was too much universe for one book, and it was cool to see the universe kind of expand. And now I think it's at a saturation point where it like makes total sense for things to actually like it would have been too early to have any of this stuff cross over beforehand, I think, because mainly like Ed said, like there's character work happening in each books, so there was a point of not having a crossover because it would seem really trite and unnecessary, but it feels like now we kind of have to, because everything's built to a point where something's got to clash, and also I think there's because you had to wait, there's more excitement for it actually happening, and so it really is just a case of like, let's just smash it all together and see what happens.
How long is this event supposed to be with all the other titles too?
Well, it's 15 part across 3 titles, 3 miniseries for 5 months. So each miniseries is 5 issues, and it goes across. So it starts with Thundercats versus Silverhawks, Mumm-Ra, and Thunderhawks. So those 3 books. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then it'll go. Issue 2 will be 4, 5, 6. Issue 3 will be, you know what I mean? So each month there'll be 3 parts. So the whole crossover is basically 15 issues across 3 separate stories.
Okay. How does that work for both of you, writing this together? Are you all in charge of different series? Are you all plotting the whole thing together?
We're in charge of different, like we did a lot of planning beforehand, a lot of like Zoom calls and and emails back and forth, trying to figure out how it would all work in a way that seemed natural. It seemed like it came from what we'd already built, and not something that seemed forced. But it was I don't remember how many Zoom calls and how many emails back and forth, but there were quite a few trying to sort it out, because there was definitely some things that need to happen throughout the series that make it difficult, that made it, like dancing between raindrops at sometimes, to try and figure out how everything could piece together in a cohesive whole. But I'm writing the Thunderhawks book, which is the Thundercats who are trapped, the second season Thundercats lost team trapped in the future, and Declan's doing the main and Mumm-Ra. But we had to do quite a bit of coordinating and a little bit of horse trading to kind of get it to feel seamless, and it was not easy. But I think it was pretty, nothing great comes without a little bit of suffering. I don't know if that's true, but I'm just gonna say that's.
At the same time, though, like while I've been on the main book and the main team, and Ed's been doing, like Ed kind of does the more inventive stuff, I feel, because he has. Well, he made new characters for the books and whatnot. Yeah. So I kind of feel it's been my job to kind of keep the main thing going, while Ed kind of like goes wilder. But as a result, we've been slightly. I think we silo ourselves out, where like we're not tripping each other over each other's toes all the time. So I'm basically doing this, but if I want to kind of do X, I can run it by Ed, and if he doesn't have any plans, it's fine. So I'd say, like, while it took a little bit of dancing. I mean, you've done more I'd say you've done more events with other writers and stuff that were more complicated than this, like when you were doing X-Men and things like that.
Yeah, like, I mean, sure, they're all complicated. And like when I said it was, some suffering early, I don't want it to seem like this is all like such a painful thing to do. It was a lot of fun, but it was just a lot of like really difficult, not really difficult, but a lot of just figuring things out. But yeah, every time you do an event, it's a lot of stress, because you want to make sure that it's worth the reader showing up for every issue. You want to make sure that it's worth their time to invest, but you also have to kind of consider that there are some people who might just read 1 or 2 of the titles, and to find that balance is a real challenge. But I think we did a pretty good job here. I believe.
I can't think of anything that I really was like, oh, damn it, I can't do X because Ed wants to do that. I can't think of a thing that really blocked anything I wanted to do. It was probably just small little things. They're like, oh, that's there. Okay, well, you can move that. Nothing. I can't remember anything particularly.
No, I don't think there was just some moving some stuff around. There's one bit that was like that took a lot of figuring out to make it work. I can't really get into it without getting into like real spoiler territory. But I think it in the end worked out really well, and I think the story is richer for it.
I think that the process was, and it was probably Nate who directed it, was I had to basically I had to work out the story for the main book. And once I did, Ed knew where he was. And then when Ed knew what he wanted to do, it kind of worked back into what I was planning. So if there was anything that needed to be changed, it was dealt with ahead of time, So somebody had to do something so that somebody could figure out if it was going to work or not. So I think the pressure was on me at first to just have the groundwork, and then there was a lot of back and forth with Ed, me, and Nate to kind of massage that outline into whatever was going to work for Ed. Mumm-Ra is actually quite different. It's a bit more isolated story, so it wasn't as complicated. It was more between Thundercats versus Silverhawks and the Thunderhawks book. They're the two that are a bit more affecting each other.
Okay, so that's without, this is a little difficult to talk about without going into spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody because I love when people are genuinely surprised. So you all please tell me that you can't answer that yet. But what I wanted to know is, since I've been keeping up with both series through collected editions, and there is no Silverhawks yet, it actually comes out this very month. I believe it comes out the second week.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, Silverhawks Volume 1, both in hardcover and in trade paperback, same day. Just like just like the Thundercats.
Well, this might, I don't know, affect you Omar, but I think with all the Diamond stuff last year, I think Volume 4 of Thundercats will be out by now, but the third one was delayed. I felt like we were really on fire with the trades, but then none for about a year now, maybe.
Man, just give me a big fat collection of all this stuff is all I want, one day. But I'm happy to wait. But I guess my question is, would anybody jumping in? If this is somebody that had just heard, holy crap, Silverhawks and Thundercats were cartoons I watched as a kid. With that first issue of Road to War, would it be something that people can pick up, even if they hadn't read either Silverhawks nor Thundercats, the comics?
Yeah, I think I think that's one of the things you always have to keep an eye on when you're doing anything like this sort of series. Is you have to. There's that dance of making something that is sort of that people can just jump in for the first time for the franchise, but also something that's going to pay off for someone who's been reading it the entire time. So I think that there is I think people can jump in and read. I think if you start with Road to War, there's just little bits of backstory there that kind of catch you up.
Okay.
The Thunderhawks is a little bit because they have a bit of they're stuck in the future, and there's a little bit of a backstory that needs to be filled in for new readers. But that's usually done. It's done. I think in the first issue through some dialogue between the characters in a way that hopefully feels non hyper exposition. It's naturally comes out. So I think that people reading it can figure out. It's not going to be back in the 80s when we would pick up a comic and just have to figure it out as we're going. I think there's enough information there that the new readers can figure it out. They can know what's going on. But and then again, we're sort of paying tribute to stuff that's come before. So if you've been reading the thing since day one, that there's nods to stuff that's happened in the past.
Yeah, if you're invested in Thundercats Lost, seeing how that team are dealing in Thunderhawks now, that's. I think it's really rewarding the readers that have been here the whole time. It's not like a reboot where nothing matters. The Thunderhawk. One of these days, I'm going to work on a book that I can say the title: Thundercats versus Silverhawks, or ex-Silverhawks. Love Silverhawks. If you're reading the main Thundercats book, there's character dynamics that have happened in the main book that are carried through. In a way, the first issue of the crossover is kind of like Thundercats 26. If you've been reading the book, some of that follows through, but you also don't really need to know, if you just pick up this issue, something's been happening, but it doesn't hinder the story. And of course, I think there's a bit more pressure on me to if you haven't been reading Silverhawks and I have to introduce them, how do you do that? What helps is I knew feck all about Silverhawks until Ed wrote his book. Because when I took on Thundercats, I took on Thundercats, everyone was asking about Silverhawks. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I remember.
So I weirdly, yeah. But like, I actually know Silverhawks now from Ed's book. So that's how I know the characters from. And that, I think Ed and I were doing something similar on both books in that, like, you know, every issue of Ed's book built the new character, the next character, the next character. So now I know those characters from the comics as opposed to, say, the show. So I think what worked for me in my favor is because I wasn't so steeped in all the Silverhawks lore, it made it a bit easier for me to introduce these characters, because in a way I don't know, like, I know enough to write them now, but they're new enough to me where I'm like, well, you know, I don't necessarily know what a Silverhawk is. So if you don't know, because I've got a job to, like, introduce Silverhawks to readers who maybe didn't try out the book, even though they're Thundercats fans. So I felt a bit of pressure there because, like, you know, felt I was really taking advantage of all the hard work Ed did. But also, you know, I was drawing it too, so I got to kind of draw cool, badass shots of Silverhawks. So, you know, this.
I think you also had the advantage that this is like the first time that the Thundercats and Silverhawks are meeting, and you're seeing it through the eyes of the Thundercats, which gives you that, like, sort of that edge to sort of introduce Silverhawks to the reader through the Thundercats discovering them, which is something that certainly helps.
Yeah, and I think what makes it this kind of is cooler is, like, there's lots of, like, licensed crossovers. You know, like, there's loads of them. You know, we've all seen them and they're all fun and everything. But this isn't just like a crossover for the sake of it. We've built these characters and they're separate kind of worlds in our own, you know, time and space. So it's not just character fights character. It's, you know, Lion-O feels a certain way after what has happened over the last couple of years, and, like, Copper Kid has come into this new team. Like, there's dynamics that have already happened. So it's not just seeing the characters fight, which of course is fun, but it's seeing the actual characters push and pull against each other in ways that, if you've been reading the comic, is a lot more rewarding than just, you know, man punch man.
So you mentioned Lion-O and Copper Kid. Is that something that we can talk about? What characters are going to play a part in these books? Because with a book like by the way, I'm super excited for something like Mumm-Ra. I do want to talk about Thunderhawks too, because that is what I'm really curious about. But with a book like Mumm-Ra, there's so many possibilities, and you're looking at it from kind of like the villain's perspective, I assume. But I also find writers always have a challenge when writing a villain. Like, it's the bad guy, right? But what is this something that you have been wanting to do, and then you found out that there was going to be this Thundercats and Silverhawks event, and you were like, hey, how about we just put it in there? I think I can still make it work.
Yeah, I mean, Ed was on the call with Nate when I think this came up. I mean, there was the idea of maybe doing it in the main book. I certainly don't feel like it could be done in the main book along all the other adventures, because there's so much kind of history with Mumm-Ra. Like, you know, now that I'm well into writing the book, I realize, like, I couldn't have just done this, you know, as a side story, as a B story through the main book, because it's just too much to it. And, like, I'm kind of lucky because, like, I'm getting to really gorge on Mumm-Ra. I can feel Ed just wanting to just do 20 issues of a Monstar book if he could, you know. Like, he's always like, oh, just give me just one more Monstar, whereas I'm actually getting to do it with Mumm-Ra. But there was back and forth, but I think its miniseries on its own makes more sense because there's just too much to really do, you know, alongside other stuff. Mumm-Ra's history is tied in with the Thundercats history. Like, so this is basically Mumm-Ra origins from where he started, and it will kind of end to where the miniseries ends and where we are now. He's also a character I didn't really want to, like, I don't know if you noticed in the book, he's not in it a lot.
Right.
Like, there's so many episodes of Thundercats where he shows up, he's like, rah, and then somebody shows him his reflection, and he's like, no, and, like, that's fine, but you can't do that every issue of the comic. He's not scary. So For me, it's an opportunity to make him really, really scary, show him like be really twist into a horrible, horrible villain. So by the end of the miniseries, we're really scared. So it's very different to the other books. Like like I said, it's kind of siloed into its own thing, but where it ends will be very important for where the other miniseries ends. So yeah, I'm the way it's worked out, I think, is really great. Like having his own miniseries to really, really dig in.
So what kind of characters can we see in a book like Mumm-Ra then, since it is part of this crossover event?
Well, there's Mumm-Ra and a lot of them. But well, there'll be like we'll see the Thundercats at a time before we've ever seen them. Like I think it's safe to say you'll see Jaga.
Okay.
But we'll see him at a time before we understand the Thundercats as they are now. There's revelations in issue 25 that affects that. I don't want to say in case anyone hasn't read it yet.
I've read it. So I appreciate it.
Okay.
The trade's not out yet, so
okay, fair enough. Well, yeah. So there's a big revelation at the end of issue 25. Knowing that will affect what we see, but also there's different interpretations of Mumm-Ra. There's different versions of him. He's kind of mutated over the centuries, so that's kind of fun too.
Okay.
So visually, there's lots of cool stuff there. Like it starts out in Egypt. Basically, I'll reveal that much is that he's actually from Earth, and we see his origins in ancient Egypt.
Okay. Ed.
Yes.
With a book like Thunderhawks, you said that this is the Thundercats lost team. And
yes.
Who are we talking? Are they lost in time? Or are they lost in space?
So originally they were lost on Third Earth. That was the first Thundercats lost series. They were part of an exploratory mission that was meant to sort of set up on Third Earth ahead of when Lino and the rest of the Thundercats arrived, and they were attacked immediately upon arrival, and then sort of hunted. And the numbers were severely cut. A lot of them were killed on the first day. So it was the Thundercats Lost team was about them trying to find they were trying to find the Book of Omens. They thought they were the last Thunderians alive. At the end of the series, I'm going to spoil this for some folks, I guess, if they haven't read the series. They're actually sort of kidnapped. Kidnapped might be a strong word, but like taken by Flashback, who's a time-traveling Silverhawk, and brought into the future. And is the whole purpose behind that is that he needs them to help him stop this war that's going to come between the Silverhawks and the Thundercats, which would sort of lead to the extinction of the Thunderians. But I think one of the interesting things that we've done with the Thunderhawks team is that they're now in the future, a couple hundred years in the future with Flashback. It's Nico, Ligon, Linkso, and Primera. And they're all now outfitted with Silverhawks armor. So it's Thundercats with Silverhawks armor fighting against a sort of like fascist future version of the Silverhawks. But one of the things, I think that the conceit that I love the most about it right now is they've actually been there for 6 years. Like they get there and they got to get back to the past to do this thing, but they're stuck. They can't actually get back to the past because they need X, Y, and Z. I won't spoil it. That's X, Y, and Z for your American listeners. Sorry, but they need this stuff in order to get back, and they're kind of stuck in this back and forth war with these future Silverhawks, and having spent 6 years in the future, they're sort of their allegiances start to sort of shift a little bit. There's some like emotional meat that is holding at least one of them back. I think there's this interesting thing about them spending time in the future that they're trying to prevent, and learning who the people are there is will create the sort of Sophie's choice about whether or not they go back and do the thing that they're supposed to do, or whether or not they kind of save this future. It's kind of an ugly, either choice is like, it's that tram question, where you stop the tram from killing one person or five people. Yeah. Instead, it's like you're choosing between five different people. You ensure the survival of Thunderians, or do you put yourself in this position where you might be wiping out these people who wouldn't exist had the war not happened. I don't think I'm getting too spoilery there, but this is kind of like one of the conceits I really like about this book. It really puts them in a tough position where, there's no clear definition of what the right thing is anymore.
No, you didn't. And I was listening to what you were saying when you were saying these are the characters that are going to be in there. Because I don't know if when I interviewed you, we were talking about this book, which was about this Thundercats loss, and we were talking about these characters that came in. If you had watched the TV show, they came in later seasons. Characters like Linkso and Mumm-Ra and Bengali. And I remember Bengali as one of my favorites because I had the toy of Bengali when I was a kid, and I would always try to watch. Well, back then, we didn't have streaming services or DVDs or Blu-rays, but I would always try to watch the replays and always miss the Bengali episodes. But so you also created new characters for this team too.
Yes. So the new characters are Nico, who is kind of takes front and center in this series. It's a lot through her perspective and how much she's struggling with this decision. And so she's like a snow leopard, sort of a pretty intense fighter. And then Ligon is our other, who is a liger, which is like it's not just Napoleon Dynamite. They're like legitimate things, which are half tiger, half lion. And it's been about a year since I've had to talk about this, because it goes two ways. There's Tigons and ligers, and one of them, I believe it's the liger, which is a lion mother, tiger father, where they don't have the growth inhibitors. So these, in real life or in zoos anyway, they tend to grow larger. They're much larger than either lions or tigers, and that's why Lion is so much larger than the rest of his folks. And he's a bit more laid back, a bit more like the sort of the a little bit of the emotional center of the team. It's kind of cool, for Rafa and I, who created these characters. We really wanted to create two characters that felt like they belonged, not that they didn't feel like we patched them on, 30 years later, 40 years, Jesus Christ, 40 years later, but they felt like they could have actually originally come from the original series. I'm quite happy with how those characters came out, and I think, the fan response to them has been pretty good. So yeah, it's been really cool to sort of let them have their time in the spotlight, especially with Nico and kind of centering her in this story has been really interesting.
I think as well. I mean, I don't know if you felt like you were forced to make new characters when you started the book, Ed, but we had such a great response with creating Calica in the main book.
Yeah,
and I remember thinking, I don't know if the licensors will let us do this, but they did, and they've been very like, yeah, go wild, but also. I knew I wanted Bengali. I was very clear about, we want Bengali in the main book. So I don't know. I didn't really talk about this, but like there was a bit of a fake out with the first book issue, because it looks like Bengali is the leader of the team, but he gets separated from the team in the first issue.
It looks like he's killed in the first issue. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, sorry, he's killed, and then this was been the fun thing for me. Is like, we kill him off, but then he shows up in my book, and then blah, blah, blah. Like, I have to say, I've been getting such a great kick out of playing with the toys like that, and because it's basically just me and Ed with Nate kind of looking over things. I've loved that we've been able to do stuff like that, or stuff like with Apex. But now I'm drawing Bengali in this first issue of the crossover, and I'm talking to Rafa about it, who is drawing Mumm-Ra. So there's this really weird, unusual kind of, cross pollination happening. So yeah, I was showing Rafa pages he was showing me Mumm-Ra pages, and I was showing him the crossover pages, and I'm drawing his character that he designed. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, in terms of like creating characters, I think the big thing was like we had that discussion because I was going to be using the second season characters for Lost, but you had wanted Bengali, so that's why we came up with we'll kill him, and then I'll do the 5th issue where we see that he didn't die, and there's this journey to sort of get back to the Thundercats.
He's found in my book, and then by then you're doing your like that connective tissue has been really fun.
Yeah, I don't know. You didn't need to do air quotes. He was really found.
Well, you literally found, yeah.
Yes, but no, I think the reason I created the characters was because knowing I had to get rid of Bengali, it left me with just Mumm-Ra and Lingso, and so I didn't want to do a team book that was just 2 people. And there weren't really there were some options that we could kind of draw on, but like not. I kind of wanted to save those characters for later, and I'm blanking on the name of. Oh my god, my brain! I'm just brain.
So you also just don't want to farm from what's there before. I mean, I think
we want to build on it.
You've been very good at farming from what's been established, but like we also have the luxury of being able to add to the world, not just kind of farm from it.
Grun was the character I was trying to remember. Like he was a character who was there, but I thought it made more sense to kind of leave him on the table. We touched on him briefly in the Panther book, but yeah, it's always fun to kind of like play with the lore, but introduce your own stuff into it, and so creating the 2 new characters anyway. It was largely to pad out the team, to make it a team, but also because that sort of stuff is very exciting to me.
As somebody that grew up with these cartoons and would end up getting a lot of the toys at yard sales and garage sales, I would find it so difficult to be in charge of both series and not wanting to bring in every single character from every single season and every villain, because I mean there's just so much. I remember talking to Joshua Williamson, who is writing G.I. Joe, and asking him who his favorite character was, and it's Firefly. And I was like, so when is he going to show up, like in the first 5 issues? And he was like, no, I have to fight the urge of using my favorite characters and just let the story progress. And to this day, Firefly has still not shown up in the G.I. Joe, at least in the collected editions. And I think we're up to like issue 18. So yeah, there's so much of Thundercats out there. So, you had so many episodes, you had so many villains. Everybody has a fan favorite. Somebody in the chat is mentioning the Lunatics, who were great characters. Somebody was mentioning the Snowman. Like, there's so many characters that you can pull from, but then it's also like, you also want to get creative. I loved for Super 7, who's been doing the Silverhawks and Thundercats, to actually do some of the comic creations that you guys are doing. Because I mean, Hasbro did it with Larry Hama's Snake Eyes character. They're doing it for a couple of other characters, so it would be really cool if whoever has the license, Super 7, would make toys that are exclusive to the comic books. That would be freaking awesome.
My answer would be that would be ridiculous. Yeah, my answer would be ridiculous. They'd never do that, but they have done that with stuff that like 10 years ago, maybe like no, it never happened. But like stuff like that happens all the time now. So yeah, I'd be delighted. I mean, Drew designed most of the Thundercats, but like, I just did a new Lion-O costume, and I got to design Apex and stuff. Like, if they've made stuff, I mean, we're of that generation that loved the toys. So if they actually made that stuff, of course, like, I don't think me and Ed would be going like, this is bullshit.
No, not at all. And going back to those points, so Snowman and Snow Meow we did use in the holiday special. And so if they're looking for that, they're in there. And the Lunatics are characters I love. But like one of the things I think about using your favorites is that like sometimes you want to hold them so you can give them the space that they need. I think you don't want to just throw them in, and be like another sort of like character you got to worry about giving some page space to, in a bloated cast. But like, that group in particular, there's sort of like some back of the mind ideas, but yeah, some when you bring
also
them
you
in,
don't
you
know
want
how
to
much
give them space.
you don't know how much track you have. Like I said, when we started,
Oh yeah,
the book,
absolutely.
it was 10, 12 issues. So I was thinking in a very kind of restrained fashion of like, let's just set up a status quo for Thundercats and comics that new readers and old readers can get behind. But then it did so well, and it opened the doors to so much. And there's all these characters, and like, yeah, you could jump on all of them, but if you do, then they don't really mean anything. So you want to kind of pace. Like I made a point of building up some of the other villains rather than going to Mumm-Ra all the time. But now there's anticipation for Mumm-Ra. You're always trying to delay gratification, not just for the fans but for yourself, because you want to do all these characters justice, but you also don't exactly know how much room you have. Like, do we have 10 issues? Do we have 100 issues? We don't know. So you can plan ahead to a degree and try develop characters the best you can, and all you can hope is that everyone will like the story so much that you will have that room to kind of do more stuff with more characters. The tough thing is trying to like hold back, for sure.
I think that would be my problem. So the restraint. Like, how do you hold back with all these freaking cool toys? Now, one of the things I saw when this project was announced, when this big event was announced, was, and rightly so, fans tend to worry about their favorite comics. And when an event like this happens, where it's Thundercats, Silverhawks.
Get it together. Oh,
yeah,
I can't even do it.
They worry about, well, what's going to happen after the event is over? Will there be a continuation of the series? Will Thundercats and Silverhawks continue? Or is this event the big finale? And I don't know if that's something that either of you can answer, or something that you all have talked about. I assume you've talked about it. But yeah, that is something that I remember seeing. People were just genuinely concerned, like if this is the big grand finale, or if there will be more, or if this can lead into something else.
Everybody dies at the end. It's full explosion. It actually is so huge that it ends comics permanently. Not only are these two titles over, comics as a whole are done. So sorry, folks.
Yeah, I think that's as good as answer as you can get. I would say
it's April 1st, by the way.
Oh, right, I forgot. Actually, yeah. Jesus Christ.
We will become Silver Cats and Hawks. I try and answer things as honestly as possible, but like there's things you can't obviously get into. When people were asking when, I think I said online, Thundercats issue 25 is the last issue of the main series. That is true. But I didn't say there was going to be a crossover. This is months ago. Right. Because I want that to be a surprise. You can't just go, oh yeah, there's going to be crossover in like an Instagram comment. You want to let Dynamite make the most noise that they can. So I would say there will. I'm describing this kind of crossover event as the next stage of the Thunderverse. So the main book is over, but this is the next stage, and when this crossover ends, we'll be in a new status quo, I think is the best way to put it. So what happens after that is up in the air, but I think I can say that much.
Okay, no, fair enough. You know what happens after that? I'm going to give you the same thing I told you when you did this comic and I had you first on. I was like, dude, we got to get Silverhawks in this comic. And you're like, what the hell is a Silverhawk?
Well, I did it, okay? Now tell me what to do.
Now you understand. Now you understand. Now we need Tiger Sharks. That's the next step. We don't look to the skies, Declan. We look to the seas. That is a deep cut for 80s kids, man. Like Tiger Sharks was a cartoon within a cartoon anthology, but it had the same formula that the Thundercats and Silverhawks did. The same kind of vibe to the intro too. If you ever just want to look at the YouTube intro of it, it's pretty solid. And on top of that, Super 7 is making toys of Tiger Sharks as well.
Well, I'd say this is kind of very annoying, frustrating answer, I'm sure, but there wouldn't have been a Silverhawks book if Thundercats hadn't done well. There wouldn't be a crossover if all the books hadn't done well to this point. So the better the books do, then there's the more options there are to kind of delve into these spaces. Like I do kind of find it crazy that I'm here talking about a crossover with Silverhawks. That like I couldn't have known was possible 2 years ago. Like it is kind of bonkers where we are right now. I never could have expected this kind of success and storytelling opportunities, but we wouldn't be where we are if people weren't picking up the books, period. So thanks.
I am loving it, man. As a child of the 80s, I mean, this is my jam. All of this stuff, all the stuff that is in comics, and all the stuff that is in comics that is doing well, and in a weird way, kind of talking to just the general audience, not just people my age. I see a lot of young people pick up books. It makes me happy. Like younger than me, people that didn't grow up in the 80s watching these cartoons, and now they're familiar with names like like what we were just talking about, like Tigra, Chitara, or Quicksilver and Bluegrass, or Copper Kid, like names like that are supposed to be long forgotten and left in the 80s, even though they try to revamp the Thundercats again. And what was that, 2011? Was it 2011? Good Lord. That's what I saw. So Thundercats, by the way, Silverhawks Volume 1 comes out, like I said, this 2 weeks from now. Thundercats Lost Volume 1 doesn't come out until June, the same day that Thundercats Volume 3 finally comes out. So that's how long this whole Diamond thing has pushed us back. But the thing that I noticed is when Dynamite sent me some images of the Thundercats Silverhawks book, is that Lion-O is sporting that outfit from 2011. Like it looks like he's wearing that
no
outfit. No,
he's not.
He's not.
No, but it is. So look, I'm getting to draw an issue. I'm gonna fucking have fun with it. So
okay.
I drew my own. I'm getting to draw it, so I'm gonna draw my own Lion-O costume. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay.
But it is partly inspired by that, because I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but like I haven't seen that reboot. Because I was very scared at the time I'd end up kind of like nicking stuff from it, because I think it looks class, and I didn't want to accidentally be influenced when you're doing like a new take on. Why am I doing this fingers thing? When you're doing a new take on characters like that, you want it to be as much of your own take as possible. You're clearly influenced by the original. I was worried I'd kind of borrow stuff from a new take without meaning to. Now that we're 2 years in, I think it's okay to I'll probably watch it now. But I do like a lot of those designs, so I try to give something Lion-O a bit more. Like it's actually more based off the Knights of Thundara armor we had in Arc 4.
Oh, yeah.
The kind of shoulder piece. But it is a little. I did sprinkle in a little bit of the of that reboot design, just because I think it's okay after 2 years. Like we've done enough wild stuff at this stage. Adding that in there too. I will also spoil, there is a Thundercats Ho sequence in the issue, because when we did it in issue 1 and drew it, I was so jealous. I was like, God damn it. Because I was writing it and I wanted to be drawing it, but Drew was drawing it. But now that I'm getting to draw an issue, I'm like, I'm totally going to do this now. But it's been 2 years since that sequence, so I think it's deserved. But there's a lot of fan service for myself in issue 1 of Thundercats versus Silverhawks.
Yeah, I'm looking at the promotional art and that armor. You're right. There is a lot of similarities to what's his name, Claudus, from the original Thundercats cartoon as well, which is the Thunder armor that you were speaking of. So it kind of makes sense. Yeah, that cartoon, I don't think people were ready for. I think that's probably the reason why it didn't do that well.
I 2011?
Yeah, I don't think there was enough time in between the original cartoon and the 2011 cartoon.
There was a
so
weird
good,
thing.
Though.
It was really good. It actually and was doing fairly well. Actually, I was just talking about this yesterday, and I needed to double check my facts here. But my belief is that there was a weird sort of incident that happened globally around that time that increased the cost of animation from the studio to a point where it became unaffordable. So if the budgets hadn't bloated so much, I think it would have continued, which is too bad. I have seen it, and and think it is great. And it was a really nice like reimagining while still kind of keeping true to the original.
Yeah, it felt like a Battlestar Galactica type thing, or taking the core concept and doing something really wild. But I think the toys didn't do very well at the time too, which really
that was another thing. But but there was a whole thing around the cost of the animation shooting up. I need to check my facts on this again, but I remember that playing a huge factor in it.
Thankfully, a lot cheaper to make comics than animated series, so we're fine.
I ended up buying some of the toys whenever I would run into them, because I really like the redesign of the Thunder Tank for that
S-Class.
Yeah. And like you said, there's a lot of cool designs for that series as well.
Well, when we were doing the first series, like the strategy was, let's reimagine it, but not as much as the cartoon as that reboot, because there seemed to be a lot of pushback to the designs. I think they're class personally, but I think we didn't want to look like we were swerving too far away from the original. So with me and Drew talking about the designs, you can say they're basically 75% original series and 25% different. Like that Tigra mustache is still controversial, apparently. So but if you're sticking to the designs for the most part, I think readers will be fairly forgiving for you taking chances in other ways. And I mean, we have since then, like the designs for the Lost Crew and Apex, like gone pretty, I think, starting out a bit kind of more closer to the original, and then people read the book and liked it, are a lot more forgiving than if you wanted to kind of go a bit wild afterwards. So I don't really think there's any restraint now, but at the beginning you didn't want to scare older readers away, but I also wanted to attract newer readers too, so you don't know how it goes.
Are you all given how does that even work when it comes to a license property like this, especially when you've got a big crossover event? And as you people that read comics know that big crossover events, usually the stakes are up. So when working on Silverhawks and working on Thundercats, I assume the script has to be approved by the editor, and then perhaps it has to be looked over by the license holder and make sure everything is fine. Like, what happens if you want to, like, I don't know, and this is hypothetically speaking, but like kill a character? Like, is that like, are there rules that you all were given at the very beginning? Like, these are things you cannot do with the characters, or you just like, do as you will, and then we'll see if we can get approval?
Well, you don't know at the start, to be honest. You kind of learn as you go. I'm sure Ed's worked on lots of licensed stuff too, and you're not exactly sure how it's going to go till you're in the middle of it. But I mean, it is, in my experience, very hands-off. The licensors, like I said, I created Calica because I wanted a love interest for Lino. I thought it might be a problem, wasn't at all. We broke the Sword of Omens in issue 1, not a problem. Nate Cosby, our editor, is very encouraging to kind of go wild, which is not really what you'd expect from the editor, The only pushback I got, or have gotten, was when Drew designed, I wanted Snarf to be very like a wild kind of dog. And the licensor just asked, could we make him not that wild? Like, could you soften it a bit? And then Drew designed this adorably cute version of him, and I fell in love with that, so I was fine. But like, if the only pushback I really got was, could you not make Snarf very scary? I mean, that's reasonable, Okay. And I think maybe the only other thing, not even it was a thing, but the actual the Thundercats versus Silverhawks logo, I designed that. That took a while to get approved, but it did get approved. It just took, like, I think, because you forget there's like legal things people need to go over and stuff, but it did actually get approved with no problems. It just took a while. Those are the only licensor issues I've had. I don't know, Ed, if you had anything with Lost.
No, it's been pretty good. Like, I'm trying to think of anything we've had sort of pushback on, and I don't think there's been anything. I've done a lot of licensed books, and some of them can be real nightmares. And sometimes the licensor just trusts that you know what you're doing and let you do your thing. We send in outlines though, so it's not like we're setting down to write, an issue and decide that we're going to kill Lino, Chitara, et cetera, and then they're kind of taken aback by it. They generally know what we're doing half a year out, if not more, and so they're typically, that's typically where things will get flagged. But like I said, I've had licensors that will go through every line of dialogue and nitpick every sort of little bit of whatever, because they think it doesn't necessarily sound like the character, or they've got whatever issue with it. But it's been pleasant. It's been pleasant. They've been kind of.
I'd say maybe even there's licensed books that are less hassle. Sorry, there's non-licensed books that are more hassle than this.
Oh, sure.
It's basically me and Ed, like between 2 or 3 books. That any lore that is with the IP is generated by us. So like I would imagine like writing an X-Men book over an event is way more complicated because there's so many characters and so many offices and stuff. So like, I think I was gonna say I wrote an X-Men thing where I had to account for where Wolverine was over a 48-hour period so I could use him in one scene because he's in the kitchen
in 4 different books. And I had to actually write an essay to make it make sense as to how he could be in this one scene. But yeah, it's been pretty pleasant.
Okay, excellent. I love hearing that it's pretty smooth, right? That's awesome.
I think
now,
so. Like Declan said, go ahead.
No, sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna say, like Declan said, a lot of like we're building off of the existing continuity, but we're changing things around. So like, I think when we do change some things around, it almost becomes like we own that little bit of it, and so they're happy to let us go off and experiment and do the thing. I think some licensors realize that like the cartoon still exists for people who still want the cartoon. I don't think if we're doing something 40 years later, we should be just trying to do exactly what they did 40 years ago. It's not gonna, if we're just feeding people's nostalgia, it's not gonna work for a newer audience.
And like from a slightly more cynical point of view, I'm not saying this is the case, but like if I were to be more cynical, you could argue that we're making new, IP for them and blah blah blah. Like I would imagine overall it seems that licensors have really kind of eased off when you see what's happening in all the other licensed books, cool artists and writers and doing mad stuff. So I wonder if there's a shift of some kind, because I don't really hear as much problems with licensed books in general. A lot of the licensors seem to kind of let the comics re-energize the stories and the characters for a new generation or a generation that already liked them without having to restrain them into like, no, this is what the cartoon was like. You have to stick with that, because I think readers are more excited by new things than like you can read the old thing again and that's fun, but then it's done. Like there's how often can you go back to it? It seems to be the case across the board. But for us, I mean, I don't mean this is an insult in any way, but it nearly feels like there isn't a licensor because that stuff just doesn't come up.
You've just doomed us.
I have doomed
us. The licensor is watching right now, and they're going to be like, "Well, shit."
Oh, they've gotten very full of themselves now, haven't they?
Yes.
You had such a good thing going too, man. And now they know.
Yeah.
Shalvey.
Start cracking the whip on us.
So, okay, we have talked about this crossover that a lot of us, like I said, growing up in the 80s, are really looking forward to. A lot of the people that are currently reading the comics are really looking forward to. What about the rest of, like, what are you doing with the rest of your time? Surely you got plenty of time to create other stuff, right? Like, what else are you all working on? Ed?
Well, today I have a competing interest with G.I. Joe. I wrote a silent issue of Baroness for Joel Jones that's out today.
Yes.
And it looks gorgeous. It's Joel, colored by Mike Spicer. I don't need to credit the letterer because it's a silent issue. But it's beautiful. So that's out today. But I would say the crossover has been the main thing. Like I'm writing 2 of the books, and I just finished I drew like a couple of weeks, finished drawing the first issue of Thundercats versus Silverhawks. I'm doing covers for all the books. I'm just doing my layouts for the last cover of Ed's series, and I'm coloring issue 4 of a Mumm-Ra cover right now. So it's really, the crossover is my entire life right now. Yeah, it's just taking up my life, but it's ridiculously fun at the same time. So poor me.
Dude, that design of the logo is killer. I love it.
Thanks, man. That was really fun. Like, again, the amount of ownership, for lack of a better word, that they've let us really kind of run with has been great. Like, I keep thinking, like, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem. And then it isn't. And you have to step back and go, this is cool, you know? Yeah, the logo, the covers, like, you know, I'm happy for the work, but like, still getting to do covers for all of the books across this crossover is really fun for me. I think I've probably done more covers for Ed than any other writer other than myself at this stage.
I think that's probably true. Yeah.
Whether he likes it or not.
What about you, Ed? What are you currently working on? Any plans to ever go back?
Yeah. So no sort of big 2 plans at the moment. I took a bit of time off, and I was working in video games, and while I was starting out on Thundercats. But I think I started out mostly doing creator owned, and during my time doing a lot of stuff at Marvel and DC, I didn't get much time to do creator owned, and so I'm trying to kind of get back to a bunch of the stuff that's kind of been piling up in the idea bank to get that sort of stuff out. So there's nothing that's really been announced. I did have a book that just came out. I've got a spinner rack right next to my desk. It's so handy right now. Yeah, Wild Animals. So this is, I know it's reversed on your
Mad
screen.
Cave.
Through Mad Cave. It's a straight crime book.
It's a very good book.
Thank you. It's about a kid who.
The weird thing for me is I've been a fan of Ed's for years. Like, I've been like a fan of his writing for such a long time. We did a Punisher book together that never came out. Like, so to get to work with him so closely on Thundercats has been a treat. But also, it's kind of intimidating because like this is a writer I've liked for years, and yet I'm supposed to be believable as writing this other book. So that's actually been the hardest thing about this whole bloody thing. But sorry, I'm talking.
Sorry.
Wow, that is really sweet of you, Declan. And
yes, I appreciate it.
And I did not mean to interrupt your beautiful message to Ed, but you said a Punisher book that never got made.
Yeah, let's come back to Punisher for a second, because then you can watch our blood boil. But yeah, Wild Animals, really quickly, straight crime book. It's about a kid whose dad was killed 15 years ago by some crooked cops. His dad used to be a cop who tried to expose these cops. And the cops were never charged, never paid for their crimes. After his mom dies, he decides to kind of go back and try and right that wrong. But it's a book kind of about this, like, it's about like the fantasy versus the reality. Like, I think we all have this sort of like fantasy of revenge or fantasy of whatever it is that we want to do. We want to be John Wick or some shit. Versus the reality of actually going out and trying to make that thing happen. And this kid is, outskilled, outmaneuvered in sort of every arena, and but still manages to kind of push for what he needs, and he finds out a lot of like upsetting truths along the way. So anyway, that's a straight crime book. I love writing crime. I love writing horror. So I've got a new horror book that's coming out through Mad Cave as well in September that be announced, I think, sometime in June or July. So that's something I'm looking forward to.
I'd say I'm working on a couple of creator-owned things as well. Not like I'm working on a couple of things too, but I don't know if you feel it. But like after I've done basically 2 years of writing between the Thundercats and Terminator, just writing more for hire stuff, which has been great, and I've enjoyed it. But like I don't know if Ed feels this way, but because he's done a book, but I feel like I need to do a new creator owned. Like, it's been too long.
Yeah, that's absolutely where my head is at too. It's just like I've got I've got like 10 different books I want to do that I've kind of just been collecting dust for like 5 years, and so I'm just one by one trying to go through them. I'm in a place now where I don't have to take on as much work as I used to, which is great. So I'm just focusing on doing like 1 or 2 books a month, rather than taking on 4 or 5, and just kind of really focusing down on those books. Yes.
Oh yeah, sorry. I've a mini series coming out. I don't know when actually. I just wrote the first issue, but it's a different IP for a different publisher. But yeah, it hasn't been announced yet. So
Oh, it hasn't been announced. Okay,
no, not yet. No.
different publisher.
A lot of us doing stuff we can't talk about.
I love that though, because then later
I'm
on,
sure-
the next time I have you on, I'm like, hey, I've already read it in trade paperback. That's so cool. Unless, of course, there's delays. So, yeah, you both have worked for the big two, and yeah, I'd love to see you all back doing some cool things that I know I enjoyed. What the hell, Punisher? You all want to tell me a little bit about that before I get some of the chat questions here? Anybody?
What's to
Without
say? It
trying
was
to spoil
before. It was 2018, 19. But yeah, we. I was looking to do a book, and I don't really know how it came together. To be honest, I think I signed on to do a Punisher book. I don't know if it was. I can't remember, so long ago. But basically, Ed wrote the whole thing. I was short one issue, and the first issue was coming out, and COVID hit. So it was. I think it was at the print. It was printed and then pulped afterwards.
I feel like there's got to be someone with copies of #1 out there. Someone from the Diamond warehouse might have walked off of some, because it was the first week that Diamond shut down. Like if they shut down a week later, we would have had that Punisher book out there on the shelves.
And it was so good. Like it was. I think I don't know how it kind of landed, but like our feeling was we're trying to do a Max type book. It wasn't officially Marvel Max. They don't do that in print anymore. But we were trying to do like a proper street, down and dirty crime. I was trying to do pulpy crime covers, and it was. I mean, I don't want to say what the story was. It was all Ed, but I loved working on it. And 4 issues drawn. 2 of them were colored, and then after COVID, I think the plan was to come back and finish it, but no one's ever asked since.
Yeah, one thing I would like to. It's actually one of my favorite things that I've written at Marvel, and it's just sitting on a desk in a drawer somewhere collecting digital dust, and it kills me. I get asked
Punisher versus Barracuda.
Yes,
that's what the title
I get asked
was.
Every time I'm in a convention, I get asked like 5 or 6 times about like when it's going to come out, if it's going to come out.
Yeah. As if you have something to do with it, as if it's.
I wish.
Why haven't you?
I wish I could. I wish I could. There was somebody I could I wish I had the power to make it happen. It was a pretty.
I've said it to them sometimes. Sorry, Ed. Sorry, I keep talking.
No, I was just gonna say it's a pretty intense book. It was. We got away with a lot that normally wouldn't in a regular Marvel book, and it was kind of tough, for people familiar with Barracuda. He works really well in the Max line because he swears. He's pretty brutal, and we managed to kind of push that line with him quite well. I think we were right up against the wall with what we could do and what we could get away with. And I had to look for different ways to make him such a scary dude, because he's like the Joker in similar ways, in that he has too much fun with what he's doing, and that makes him terrifying. And the way that we were able to do that, I was so excited, so happy. It was coming together so well.
So it was
COVID hit, and then
it's intimidating too, because me and Ed are such fans of the Ennis parallel Marvel Max stuff, and you don't want to do a sanitized version of it either. So even though it wasn't Max, like Ed said, it was right up on the line. It was Marvel Universe, but the tone of it was still quite to the edge. Can't remember.
I remember a lot of back and forth between you and I, where we're like, I can't believe they're letting us do this. We can't. I would put things in there, and I'm like, I can't believe they're letting us get away with this. And in the end, they didn't, I guess. But while it was happening, it was pretty great.
I feel like it could happen now. If you want to do Red Band, or that didn't exist at the time we were doing the book.
Yes.
But I guess neither I or Ed have said campaigned hardcore to do it again. But even if we did, it's completely down to Marvel what they wanted to do. I have mentioned it a couple of times, going like, just one more issue. Just what if they really wanted it? Give me a month and a half. I could draw the last issue. And there's times where I've been available and when I've not been available, and like it could be done. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense for either of us to try and make it happen. It's really not down to us. There's like, you don't know what Marvel's publishing plan is or what they're planning to do with characters. It's the tough thing with doing the bigger stuff is like you don't know what the machine side is happening. So you might have something that's perfect and it not suit their plan.
Okay. So if this happened in when you guys were working on it in 2018 and then 2020 came around, I guess it kind of makes sense why they didn't at first, because there was that whole thing with the Punisher going around and then Jason Aaron's run. They got rid of Frank Castle. But the Red Band is a perfect place for it. And honestly, you could do things. I mean, for God's sakes, we've got Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus dropping F-bombs left and right. And I think they can take a chance with things like that again. I assume at one point they were like, we're done with the Max line. We're trying to, I don't know. I think it's a perfect time to bring it
wasn't
back.
even Max, so that's the thing, right? Like, so
yeah.
But
you could tweak it to be a little bit more now. I think that would be
maybe
cool.
I think I would like to keep it would be fun to do a Red Band version where we have some pages that are like, because there's some pretty intense scenes there. I think there's part of me that can understand, especially at the time, why they might have pulled back on it. But yeah,
there was a bit of squeamishness around. I mean, 2020 was a crazy year, so I can understand it to a degree. My own take would be different, but like I especially think now, when we do have Red Band Punisher, there doesn't seem to be the same squeamishness. I don't see what, but like, look, we don't. It's not up to us. If they asked me tomorrow, I would do it because I have a window, but I'll become unavailable in the next couple of months. So let's just say they did in 2 months, then I wouldn't be able to do it. And what are you gonna do? I'd love to see it come out. I think it's some of my best stuff. I love what I liked about that is I love crime stuff, but crime stuff isn't necessarily the most fun to draw. But I got to draw it was set in Miami, it was dark and dirty and so moody and I loved working on it so much. I would love for it to come out.
All right, there's an incredible.
But I also kind of.
I remember getting to introduce you. I think I can't remember if you hadn't heard of before, or I had to show you photos of Chuck E. Cheese, because we have a whole scene in the second issue set in it's like Panda's Pizza Palace, Panda's Party Pizza Palace, I think we call it for our thing.
Yeah.
But essentially Chuck E. Cheese, where a whole shootout takes place. It was I
was in America not long after that, and I saw Chuck E. Cheese, and I went in there and took photos of it for reference.
Nice.
There's a couple questions here. One of them is for you, Ed. Was your run of Batman Incorporated always planned to be 12 issues? If not, where are there ideas you wanted to do? Sad Clown Hunter hasn't appeared since. Was it the last time?
I'm not sure because I haven't. Probably not. I don't know how much Phantom 1 is. Not Phantom 1. Ghostmaker's appeared since. The plan was always 12 issues. It was that way from the start. The hope was that maybe we catch some heat. We could do more than the 12 issues. But honestly, Grant Morrison, who created Batman Incorporated back 15, 20 years ago, only managed to do 12 issues as well. So I'm not so egotistical that I think I'm going to be able to squeeze more out of that series than Grant Morrison was able to get. It was a fun book to write. I got to introduce a new character to the lineup, and it was a ton of fun. But it was always intended for 12 issues.
Okay. And then Ghost Rider, believe Johnny being the king in hell should last long as Immortal Hulk. What are your ideas? Do you want to explore more of that, Johnny being the king in hell?
So if Punisher and Ghost Rider are my two big sort of Marvel sore spots, I guess. I'm not working for Marvel right now, so I guess I can be, a little bit candid about it. They're the two things that I wish I was able to, I wish that Punisher series came out, and Ghost Rider, which was another victim of COVID. I wish we'd been able to see that to fruition. At the end of my Ghost Rider run, at the beginning of it, Johnny was the King of Hell, which was something that was established in another crossover series that I'm blanking on the title of. But he wasn't going to be King of Hell by the end of it. It was going to be passed off to someone else. But so, yeah, if, it's been like, 6 years now. So, yeah, Johnny wouldn't have been King of Hell anymore. He would have given up the throne at one point throughout the series. Okay. I think that hopefully answers it.
I hope
yeah,
Go ahead, Ed.
No. I don't know. I'm probably missing how it ties into the Immortal Hulk.
Immortal Hulk went on for, that omnibus is 50 plus issues.
No, I know. I understand that. I'm just not sure.
Maybe he wants it to be that long.
Yeah. Then I could. Yeah, that would be great. That would have been amazing if we could have done 50 series. Yes. You and me both would love to see that.
They did end up releasing your run in a complete collection. I'm hoping to see it in an oversized format one day. Just like I'm hoping to see Declan's Moon Knight in oversized format one day with a Moon Knight modern omnibus, man.
Or just back in print. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it's out of print. Well, that whole
era. Out of print for 10 years.
Oh, I know. I have to hear about it, and it is definitely an era that it would be such an amazing gap filler, because you have all these tremendous creators working on the character, and they could all put it together into one big omnibus, and it can be between the.
In the UK, Panini have done a version of a nice hardcover as well. I was just in France, so like getting to see my run with Warren and Brian Wood and Greg Smallwood and Cullen, like it's a nice chunk of a book, but yeah.
I'm hoping one day we get to see that, because like you mentioned, when these books go out of print, it's kind of a pain because people don't get the chance to read it unless you have Marvel digital or DC digital.
I think what probably not hurts it, but like there is a very good beloved run by Jeff Lemire and Greg Smallwood. So like if you want a great Mr. Knight story, that one's like I think it's 12 issues, maybe more. So there's a nice chunk of a collection there that's two creators. I think that's quite attractive. Maybe I don't know if that like affects decisions or whatnot. But look, I'd love to like I said, I think my mom borrowed. She gave a copy of the trade to her neighbors for their kid to read. And she's like, "Oh, could you give me another one?" I'm like, "No, I only have two. Like, you need to get that back."
Wait, you should let him borrow it? Really?
Yeah. Well, she's "Oh yeah, your kid can read it." I'm like, "You need to go over to that kid and get that book back. That's on you."
Yes, man.
I'm not giving you another one.
And let's see here, Mr. Shalvey, plan to do a new Old Dog, which
I know what I'm going to do next. It's just a matter of time. I have such incredible Irish Catholic guilt about the gap between the last book being published, but it is something I'm incredibly proud of, and I want to do more of. Just I think I was so tired, I was exhausted when I finished that first book, and then actually that's when Thundercats kind of kicked off. So I kind of got very distracted by these shiny toys. But I have been working on a couple of ideas for stories. I just, my thought was I either need to write them and have somebody else draw them or keep them for myself to draw. And I think I had like a poll on my newsletter and it was clear everybody just would prefer I draw. So even though it would take longer. So I'm drawing a book soon that'll take up the rest of this year, but then my plan is to go back and do more Old Dog.
Oh, okay.
Which sucks. I feel so bad making people wait, but I can only draw so much.
Yeah, there's only one of you. So this is what he meant.
Yeah.
Ed.
Can you see the pain in my face? I feel so bad about it. Like,
cultural impact. Like PKJ still uses elements for his
Yeah,
run on
I would have loved that. I would have loved, in a different reality. That would have been good.
So we talked about this huge event, and we talked about what you two are working on, and you can't say some of the things you're working on, which makes me happy that you are working on things, even though you can't discuss them here. What's the next big dream project for both of you? Like if you were to do something else. And you said you worked on video games. What aspect?
I was writing for video games. I can't say what video game I was working on because it's not out yet. I think it comes out maybe later this year. But I was at Ubisoft for a year and a half, 18 months, something like that. So quite a while, and it was full time for a lot of that time. So that's why I sort of cut back. Yeah, I don't know. For me, in terms of stuff I want to do, I've I used to have this like plan that I would write comics for Big Two for about 5 years, and then I would just kind of fuck off and go, disappear for 6 months at a time, and then just kind of appear with scripts and hand them off to whoever I'm working with, and then vanish again. And the older I get, the more that appeals to me. It took me longer than 5 years to sort of get to the point where I wanted to be. The pandemic is kind of screwed that as it messed up global lives and plans. But I'm kind of at that point right now where I'm just really want to focus on some more personal stuff. Like I've kind of talked about already, the creator-owned stuff that I've been doing. And just not work around the clock anymore. Like I have like a pretty set schedule that I kind of am sticking to, and just really focusing on the things that get me really excited rather than the things I need to do to pay the bills.
Gotcha. Okay. What about you, Declan? What would you like to do?
I can't say because that's the next thing I'm doing.
Whoa! No shit. I'm so happy.
Yeah, there's man. Yeah, there's like a dream thing I've always wanted to do. I never knew if it could ever happen, but it seems like it is happening.
Okay.
So my kind of goal is I want to try and like make sure I take care of all this crossover stuff in the next month or so, and then kind of clear my plate a bit so I can just kind of concentrate. So put it this way, I would be going back to Old Dog next, except this thing came up, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to do an absolute dream thing. So that's going to take up the rest of my year. I'll be writing stuff on the side for sure, but I don't think I'll be able to stay with this for a long time. But I'm even talking to friends of mine going like, how the hell is this happening? So I can't say what it is because I'm actually getting to do it. I think it's no secret I'd love to do like a Daredevil run someday. I can say that because it's not what it is. But
is it? Can I ask? Is it finishing our Punisher run? Is it?
No. I mean, that's just applied. That's. I mean,
right.
Like I know, like this will infuriate you, Ed, but like I kind of like there's a thing I've done out there that no one's seen. All of your favorite artists have done like a project that's in a drawer somewhere. So I've managed to live with it because of that. But
I think if I didn't have 3 of those, then I'd be fine with having one of those.
Oh man, you've got 3
well,
of
mine as well. But I just done the layouts too. I just finished my layouts, and then it was pencils down.
All right, so I didn't mean to interrupt your dream.
Oh no, that's all. I mean, no, look. I mean, a Punisher book I've always wanted to do. I guess I've just kind of wiped it out of my brain because it is incredibly frustrating to have like a Punisher book done with one of my favorite writers and crime writers. Period. It's mad that it is nearly there and hasn't come out, and don't know if it will. Who knows? But yeah, no, I'm quite fortunate. But even getting to do this crossover, man, is so unreal like if you told me 2 years ago, like you and Ed are going to run a crossover across like Thundercats and like it's just insane. So I'm so lucky to be doing all the things I am doing. But also as a writer artist, there are some things I'd like to do, and getting to do Old Dog was one of them. And that's why I'm when you find out what it is, you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. That's a good reason to wait a bit longer on Old Dog.
I feel like I've got a pretty good idea of what it might be, and I'm going to send you an email afterwards, see if I'm right.
Okay.
My question is, when will this announcement be coming out? Like, is it something that people usually announce at like San Diego Comic-Con, or?
I've no idea. I've like the outline and everything is approved, but I haven't started. Like that's I want to take care of the crossover before I start writing this, because I don't. Ed will know this. You kind of end up writing stuff alongside, like, you know, things, and what I would really like is just clear my plate a bit more and really concentrate on this one thing for a while. So I'd say, but I would say not till next year. Maybe it won't be announced. I'd say it'll be a long time.
Gotcha. Okay, so that far in advance then. Wow, this. Now I'm curious. But yeah, that's wonderful, man. Do you think Danny should have kept his spirit of corruption in Ghost Rider? Still going, would use the other characters like Hellstorm and Mephisto's son. I think it's got really run on Ghost Rider. That's so cool, dude.
I get lots of like Ghost Rider is one of those things I get a ton of questions about. It was one thing I was really excited about writing, and so still kind of bummed. But I don't want to, this is like kind of tough because I haven't actually followed Ghost Rider since my run ended. It's kind of like, after a breakup, you don't want to like go out and have drinks with your girlfriend's new boyfriend kind of thing.
I've never read Moon Knight since. Same thing. I've never read Moon Knight after.
I need time to heal. But yeah, the spirit of corruption thing was something I thought could be interesting for Danny going forward for a while anyway. It's Marvel, so I know everything's going to be reset to the status quo, but would have been cool to see it explored for a little while. And I don't know what happened after I left, because I know Ben took over writing the book. I like Ben's writing a lot, so it's not a knock against him. It's just my own emotions.
Yeah, if you don't want to see your old girlfriend with like a guy you really like.
Yes.
I remember Chris Claremont telling me that too. Like, he couldn't read X-Men for years after leaving X-Men, and I get it. Yeah, I get it. But from time to time, I do think that Claremont still reads X-Men just so he could get angry at whatever's happening currently, which I also respect. So, well, gentlemen, this has been a blast. I want to thank both of you all for joining me today to talk about your book that is dropping. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think last week or this week was the Road to War, and this big crossover, and then of course the things that you're working on. And
yeah, I would say Thundercats X Silverhawks is out next week, April 8th, and then Mumm-Ra is out the following week, and then Thunderhawks is out the following week. So I can't remember which days. So it'll be a week after each they come out.
Awesome. And I want to thank everybody for watching. Ed, thank you for being here again, man. It's always a pleasure. One day I'm going to get my Alpha Flight book with Wolverine. You could throw Punisher and Ghost Rider in there too if you want to. That would be fine. They're
all right.
But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and we are out of here. Have a great day, everybody.